I'm Doug Doherty, President of Hamilton Flourishing, and we're so glad you've joined us today as we continue our discussions with people who are running for the 9 City Council and Mayoral seats of Chattanooga, the biggest part of Hamilton County. And today we're talking to Erskine Oglesby, who is running for mayor. And Erskine, we're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. It's an honor to be able to chat with you.
Doug, it's good to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Let me just remind the voters right now, the watchers, that the election is March 2nd, not far away. Voter registration ends February 1. Early voting will begin February 10 and ends on February 25th. And so that's not that far away. And while I'm mentioning it, if you go to our website, hamiltonflourishing.org, you can find all the candidates there, pictures of them, connections to their websites, and we'll post these interviews there as we get them. And you also can register to vote there, and you can look up where you vote, what precinct you're in, and then where you vote and who would be representing you. Now, in Erskine's case, you're running for mayor, so the whole city is yours. Also, I need to say that we'll be keeping up on, during the interview, Erskine's email address and his website. So if you want to go there and find out more about Erskine, and if you want to communicate to him about a question or something, or you say, hey, I want to sign up, I want to be on your team, that's the way to do it. So Erskine, tell us a little about yourself, where you were born. Are you married, have children, grandchildren? Where'd you go to school? What do you do for a living? Where do you go to church? How do you like to spend your free time?
Wow, that's the 30 minutes right there. No, Doug, yeah, as you say, I'm Erskine Oglesby Jr. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up in public housing. In fact, the public housing that I grew up in was called the Pruitt-Igoe Projects, and it was designed by the architect who did the original World Trade Center. And it was really supposed to be one of those socially innovative housing developed, which didn't turn out so well. It was built in the middle 50s and was blown up in the middle 70s. That's what a disaster it was. And myself, my mother, and 2 brothers grew up in that. But that didn't stop her from loving us and providing us with the opportunities we need. That when I left there, I went on to college at Tennessee State University in Nashville. That's where I met my lovely girlfriend, now my wife Cheryl, who is from Lookout Mountain, is a graduate of the Howard School. So that kind of tells you how I got to Chattanooga, in which I'm finding out more and more Chattanoogas are brought here either by their husband or their wife. So that says a lot about Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So when we came down for a UTC Tennessee State University football game, and it was my first time here. And growing up in an old Midwestern city and driving down here in the fall, the beautiful foliage of the mountains coming around the Tennessee River, I said, man, this is the greatest place I've ever been, because I had never seen any environment like that. And at the time, in the middle 70s, Chattanooga was not the place you would think anybody would want to live at, based on Walter Cronkite's report on CBS News. But at that time, I saw something really special because of the mountains and the rivers. And it was just a great place. And in the back of my mind, I figured, man, this is some place I can live, seeing that this is the first place I've seen outside St. Louis. And eventually, I did get here, which we'll get into later on in our conversation. But it's a city that I've seen come from that point to where it is now. So my aspiration and my thoughts turned out to be true, as far as Chattanooga developing into that city to a point where it's one of the best cities on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. Uh, I have, as I said, I'm married to Cheryl. Her maiden name is Lawrence, now Oglesby, went to Howard. And I have two children, a son and a daughter. My daughter is married to a contractor in St. Louis, and I'm blessed with three grandsons.
Oh boy.
And they're doing phenomenal. And I have one great granddaughter.
Really?
Yes, yes,
Wow.
I know. I'm not as old as I probably look, but
Well, maybe they just married you.
yeah. Oh, they did. Trust me, they did. They married very young. Um, they're doing very well, and you know that's it for our family.
Yeah.
You know, you asked about my
Well,
church,
where do you go to church?
uh, Resurrected Reformed Baptist Church.
Resurrection Reform. Where is that?
That's located over off 18th and Main, over Willow, over in that
Okay.
area.
Okay.
That part of Chattanooga, near 23rd Dodge. Really, really great church, does great things in the community, and the pastor is a very good minister of the word.
Good.
So my wife and I love going there. It's really almost like a family church because her mother went to that church. My sister-in-law goes to that church. So it's really a family church for us.
What do you do for fun, for your free time? What's some of your hobbies or one of your hobbies?
Well, pre-COVID, I loved going to college sports. Being a graduate of Tennessee State
Yes.
University, I make as many of those games as possible wherever they're at. But in the spring and the summer, I love whitewater rafting. So
Do you really?
yes, love it,
So
love
you go
it.
up to Ocoee?
Yes, I go to Ocoee. I go up to
Hiawassee? The Hiawassee too?
yeah, 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 and I also go up to North Carolina and West Virginia.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You are serious.
So yeah, I'm very serious. I love the sport.
Now you are right now you're in a city council District 7.
Yes,
right?
I am.
Tell us where is District 7?
District 7 is located, and I'll start at the Bluff District. It goes around from the Bluff District to around the aquarium. So I have like the majority of downtown. You know, I have the Blue Cross Blue Shield area, the convention center. I have the west side, the county courthouse. When you go the Austin site, which is now called the Bend, you go up Broad Street. So I have all of Broad Street. I go to St. Elmo, to the foot of Lookout Mountain.
Do you include St. Elmo one of your
Yes,
districts?
yeah. As a matter of fact, that's where I live in St. Elmo.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, So you know, all of St. Elmo, Alton Park, Emma Wheeler Homes projects. Then you go down Rossville Boulevard to the Georgia line. I have East Lake to the foot of Missionary Ridge, and I have half of Main Street.
That's an interesting district.
Yeah, it's you know, and as we talked about earlier, I got half of the Walnut Street Bridge. So yeah, it's a very socially economic, diverse district, which has some of the best that Chattanooga has to offer, and it has some of the challenges that exist in Chattanooga, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to serve the citizens of District 7.
Erskine, tell me this. Why do you believe you would make a good mayor?
Well, my experience, I have experience in nonprofits, for-profits, and in education. I've served as in hospital, which is my degree. My degree was in healthcare administration and planning, so I've got extensive experience working in hospitals and in the healthcare business as a whole. And I've worked extensively after leaving the healthcare industry, the hospital industry. I worked in a number of nonprofits, particularly the YMCA, and when I got here, I worked for the United Way.
Oh.
So, but prior to coming here, I worked for the Salvation Army under a FEMA contract doing recovery work after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, where I managed 5 operation centers in Mississippi and 5 in Louisiana, helping with the recovery work and managing funds that was distributed to the counties and the parishes in those states. So I have, a vision of where I believe our city can go moving forward based on the experiences I shared with you from the 70s and seeing how it has evolved to this point.
This is a little redundant, and you may want to, but anyway, what do you think has prepared you for mayor's job?
My extensive public service.
Okay.
My professional experiences and my extensive public service experience, volunteerism. I've served on a number of boards, both locally on the state level and internationally. I'm serving as city council, but I've always have been active in service and giving back to the community.
Okay. Here's a bit of a philosophical question. What do you think of as the proper role of city government? Is it more hands-on, or is it more kind of let the private sector go and free them up to resolve things, fix things, do things, mess things up, or is it more hands-on?
I believe it's a combination of things. Our city, our basic function is to take care of the needs of the citizens of the city. And the city, first and foremost, should provide all of that. As a mayor, I believe I'm a collaborator and a convener that brings people and organizations together to achieve a common goal. One of the organizations I'm a part of is the Southeast Tennessee Development District, which has the Regional Council of Governors. So as part of that organization, I worked with the county and local mayors from Grundy to Polk and North Georgia. And we have really good conversation where they see Chattanooga as a catalyst that can spur other economic and other empowerment opportunities throughout our region. And that's where I view Chattanooga, or being the mayor, is being a convener, making sure that our citizens are served as best our ability to do.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
Okay. Answer me this, Erskine. What are your top 3 to 5 issues for you in this election?
Mm-hmm.
What are your top 3?
Okay, they're my top, but they're not in the order of priority.
Okay.
As a mayor, I believe all those are priorities, but I believe economic development, which coming out of this COVID, we got to look at how we develop and support small businesses. We need to look at how we grow our communities, community revitalization and stabilization. That's the second part.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And my really big one is early childhood and youth development.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any more other than
yeah, we're looking at our infrastructure.
Oh, infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And any other?
And our public safety, which includes police and fire.
Now, if you were elected, what would be your priority? You may have to respond to the COVID thing, for instance. That may be the priority thing. I'm not saying it will be, but it may be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it may be something unexpected, or it may be COVID. Or, but what would be your priority? These would be your issues. You say, this is what my heart is about.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the first thing you'll do when you get over there?
I would look at community revitalization and stabilization.
So elaborate on what you're saying, mean when you say
Yeah,
that.
well, we need to create an environment where we can we can grow our communities. And through community revitalization and stabilization, the first thing comes to mind is affordable housing.
Okay.
You know, we have to get a handle on that. And we have a number of mechanisms and opportunities that we can use because what I'm going to do is formulate a team. And one of my team members will be a housing expert, if you will. That person will go to bed at night and wake up in the morning looking at ways we can do better with that housing piece, because we have a number of properties in our cities that we can use to help increase the housing stock that will hopefully lower the cost of someone having to pay rent, or preferably have home ownership.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, just simply cleaning up our neighborhoods and making sure those that are living in those neighborhoods now has the ability to stay in those neighborhoods.
Yeah. And feel safe.
And feel safe, yes.
Yeah. Do you support any kind of or tax increase? If so, what have you thought about this? I mean,
My preference is to manage
what you got?
what we got.
Okay.
And that's the best. I mean, we're at a point now where we're struggling financially as we are. People are really trying to figure out, how to use the funds that they have now. And, entertaining a tax increase at this time is not something that I'm looking at. I just want to, I want to be fiscally responsible with the resources, the financial resources we have now.
Fair enough. Big deal for Chattanooga, especially coming out, if we get out of this COVID thing. What can the city do to continue to see our economy grow and grow more jobs in the Chattanooga area?
Mm-hmm. One, we need to focus on our education. As a city, we need to, and you'll hear me use this a lot, is about collaborating, because we're in a location, in a space where we got to figure out how to do this together regionally. Otherwise, we can't be successful. So that job component, the educational component, and part of that educational component is that early childhood development piece. Because one of the things that I focus on, because we have a great school system, I think we have, and Dr. Johnson is doing a phenomenal job moving it forward. But what we need to do better at is programming from birth through first grade. And I believe the city can be an integral part in making that happen through our YFD centers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody what a YFD is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Currently they're called the Youth and Family Development Centers. They're the old Parks and Recs.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Old Parks and Recs.
Mm-hmm.
This leads me right to the next question. It's a natural segue. What do you see as the proper role of government in the life of families? Do you have a philosophy on this?
Yeah, well, it goes back to what I was talking about, our Youth and Family Development Center. It's essential that we provide activities and places where people can feel safe. They need to be and in moving our early learning forward, it's a family affair.
Yeah.
Because the kids cannot be in the home most of the time most of the day, and there has to be a component where we get back to the family unit.
Yeah.
And I believe the city can play an integral role, and I have seen great programming in our centers that bring families together.
Right. This segues into this question, and I'd love to hear your answer on this. Do you see a role for the faith community, churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples, and local government programming? Do you see you talk about collaboration, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're talking about family. It seems to me like the faith community would be a real resource for that. I don't know that it does, but what do you think about all that?
Yeah. I think the faith community is very integral to how we move our city forward, both from a family perspective, but economically and socially. So I would work with the faith-based community as collaborators in how we develop programming for family and economic empowerment and community stabilizations. And I would, we would come together regularly and have those discussions collectively.
Well, the mayor has as a convener.
Mm-hmm.
He can convene just about everybody he
Yes.
wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So and then he has a bully pulpit that if he chooses to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So between convening and pulpiteering, so to speak, there's a lot that can be done without necessarily putting other resources into it. I mean, just bring people together to talk about things can often, the right people can create all kinds of things.
And the other thing about that, bringing people together and talking about it, when those conversations are over, there has to be actionable plans where people can see results. Too many times we get into these situations where we have a lot of conversation, but nothing comes out of it. Right. As mayor, when I convene those groups together, it has to be, where do we move from there? Because I'm working now with the West Side Evolve project, which is looking at how we can redevelop the West Side community, which is that College Hill Courts and that Boynton area. And one of the things that I am animate about is that during this process, people need to see tangible results. And there needs to be a timeline to let people know that we're on track and this is what the finished project gonna look like. The great thing about that is, Doug, is it's citizens' input. So it's not gonna be just a bunch of folks sitting around making decisions for the people of that community. The community are and will continue to be actively involved in how that happens.
I'm going to change gears just a little bit. This is kind of a tough question, but I think it needs to be asked. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? And please explain to our listeners your thinking and your answer about that.
Yeah, that's something I leave to individual preference, and I really don't get into a lot of that running for mayor because I don't see that being really one of the things that the mayor has to deal with because it's so legislative. It goes to the state, federal.
I wouldn't even bring it up, but in other cities they pass state laws, and then cities have said we're not going to enforce the law. And we do have a very conservative state legislature. And so, and this has come up with the area of immigration where they've had sanctuary cities and sanctuary, so I think it's something at least to ask people.
Yeah, no, and I have no problem with you asking that, but that's an area I'm not going to touch, just being quite frankly. Yeah,
no,
I want to focus on all our resource that's going to really, develop and grow our cities and make our citizens' quality of life better.
A phrase that's been thrown around a lot in the last few years in Chattanooga, I'm thinking about Unify Ed, I'm thinking about Black Lives Matters, is this notion of systemic white racism. I don't know, I think the city is I'm not sure what the portions are, black to white and Hispanic, but there's large percentages of all, Hispanic being the least. But what's your thoughts just about this notion of systemic racism? I mean, just what do you think about it?
Yeah, it has existed, for centuries.
Yeah.
And for me, I would the best way to get out of that is to create wealth and financial empowerment in communities of color to help overcome some of that racism. Because what I view is that's the reason why we've had all this social strife since Mr. Floyd and even prior to Mr. Floyd. Like I said, it's been going on for decades. And I want to focus on bringing resources to challenged communities, black and brown communities, that will give self-empowerment by providing resources that make that happen, that creates wealth within those communities.
Like you're thinking there. Simple question: how do you understand the concept of equity working in your role as an elected official? It's a guiding principle for some of the people that are running. The whole notion of equity, and how would, and I guess the easiest way to get at this question is say, how would you define equity?
Equity,
As in your role as a government leader.
Equity is providing resources and opportunity for everybody to have the same chance, the same resources to move forward in how they choose to move their life. It shouldn't be necessarily made for them, for people from underserved, challenged communities, but the ability to make your own decision, to live your life the way you want to live, without anybody telling you how to do it, but you're being able to make those decisions, and those decisions are respected.
Yeah, I get it. Good answer. Do you believe in the previous city's administration or the current county and state administration, how they've handled the response to COVID? Or can you think of ways you would have improved it? Or, in other words, has the present administration done a good job, both city, county, and state, with COVID? Or can you see ways that it could have been more effective?
Yeah, our city mayor has done a phenomenal job. And, every day he focused on those CDC guidelines, wear your mask, social distancing, limit the number of people you're around. And that's been hammered into our city, since the beginning of this COVID, because I was actually at the press conference the day it was announced of what we were going to have to do to work our way through this. Unfortunately, it has lasted a lot longer than anybody could have ever anticipated. I understand that our county mayor was acting under the authority granted by the governor doing this thing. So whether you agree with it or not, I have to respect that, because that's the way our system is. And I just think from this point forward, we just need to continue abiding by those CDC guidelines, just being personally responsible. I know it's hard to do. It's been almost a year, and but we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves, our families, our friends, and our communities.
Yeah.
And I would have just continued to educate people to do what's needed to do to be safe.
Change gears just a little bit, Erskine. What's your position on the Second Amendment? Right to bear arms.
I come from my uncle, which we're almost like cousins because we grew up a few years apart. He's been an avid sportsman since he was 13 and I was like 9. And I've had nothing but positive experience. I mean, he's probably got every type of gun on the planet. So the right to bear arms is where you're going with this. Is that's a constitutional right. Now, on the flip side of it, how you are, there's a personal responsibility involved with gun ownerships, and but I'm support if you want to have guns, use it responsibly, as my uncle has done all those years as a sportsman. It's a good thing. It's when it creates situations that's not safe for our citizens.
This sort of leads a little bit into the next question. This is really not, because these folks shouldn't be having guns, but we seem to have shootings, random shootings, drive-by shootings, shootings at houses. A few weeks ago, I guess there's a couple months now, 3 young minors were shot on the same day. They said it was a targeted shooting, right in Tunnel Boulevard area, I think it was. And how will you approach the problem of shootings in Chattanooga?
I believe it really takes actually getting out into communities and reaching citizens that this is not responsible behavior. And I understand a lot of them are illegal, but some of them are. And you know, we just need to continue to educate and reach out and and just keep a focus on being responsible. And you know, I kind of, as you can see, I struggle with this because it's really a question of why.
Right.
You know, and then when you figure out why, you just don't know. But you just have to continue to fight from the standpoint of education and trying to get these guns off the street.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get the guns off the street. You know, create other avenues for the irresponsible gun users to do other things that's more positive, you know, whether it's jobs, you know, increased education,
Right.
training. You know, we just got to give citizens other opportunities that will not create that need to go out and have senseless gun violence.
What do you think, Erskine, another question. Do you believe the city is doing enough to help the chronically poor, the disabled, mentally ill, I mean, people who really can't help themselves?
Mm-hmm.
What is your philosophy of the role of government in such things? Chronically people who can't help themselves,
Mm-hmm.
mentally ill, disabled,
Mm-hmm.
chronically poor.
Mm-hmm. I believe we can have more of a role. My son is autistic, so I understand intimately what the needs are in making sure that people have the people that struggle like that has the resources and the ability to be self-sustaining. And as a mayor, through the Mayor's Council for Disability, I would expand that role to make sure that we collaborate, that collaborative agencies work together.
I didn't know there was a mayor's council of disability.
Oh yeah,
Is there?
yeah.
I've never heard of it. I've lived here all my life.
Yeah, I've been active with that even prior to getting on the city council, primarily because
Who chairs that?
Jennifer Crutchfield.
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer Crutchfield.
Okay.
And
Sorry, I
like,
didn't mean to get you off track.
no, that's fine. That's fine. No, it's good to get that out there, that there is. And I have been intimately involved with that even prior to the city council. And we have had programs where the agencies come together. And one of the agencies involved is the Chattanooga Area Employment Consortium. So citizens with disability concerns, these organizations work together to get employment and other resources that's needed for citizens with mental illness.
Yeah.
You know, which kind of blends into, you know, our homeless community.
Right. It also builds into the criminal justice.
Oh yeah, I was going to hit all of that.
In jail, and that's not where they need to be.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So, you know, once again, it goes about programming. I intend to have individuals on our team that will give those hard looks on how we can do better at that. Once again, convening agencies that are subject matter experts in dealing with issues of mental health and homelessness, and make some concrete gains. And I think the city is very intricate part of that because they're citizens of our city just like everybody else.
Right. Erskine, you're doing wonderful. A couple of last questions. Talk about affordable housing in the city. I mean, we have a low housing stock.
Mm-hmm.
Rents are high.
Mm-hmm.
People need to build equity in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the biggest source of wealth they're ever going to have
Mm-hmm.
for most people.
Mm-hmm.
I bet 90%, 92%, that's
Mm-hmm.
true. So what's your view of affordable housing?
Yeah, you know, being chair of economic and community development for the city, I have a lot of conversations with our economic development people on how we can do better moving forward. One of the ways is that we have a number of property in our city that the city owns, and I'm going to have our team look at enhancing the land banking principles to see how we can begin to make these properties available to those people who wants to develop affordable housing, because land is obviously expensive, and it's an opportunity to do some development at a lower cost, which would mean that we could make citizens who want to purchase and or rent homes at a much lower rate. Continue.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's that's just going to be our primary focus. And the other thing is about those that we have some blighted neighborhoods, and a lot of it is blighted, and it affects the property owners that are already there. So we're going to look at cleaning up those blighted neighborhoods to make it more attractive and safer for the current residents. One of the other issues that's centered around that is energy efficiency. And a lot of people can't afford where they live because their energy bills is higher than what they pay for rent or mortgage. So our team will develop a program on how we can address those issues so we can make homes energy efficient, and we can help bring them up to code. So we'll be educating people on how to maintain their homes so they can stay within codes, which means it's safe.
Okay, good.
For them. So we'll have a team that's going to work.
Doing great.
Real hard on it.
This is the last question. That's all for me. Any last words from you that you'd like to share with the, anything you're thinking that you'd like to share with the viewers?
I'm just extremely excited to be in this race. It's something that I have lived for, and without being ambitious, saying one day I would be a city council or a mayor, or at least a candidate for mayor, is the fact that my life work as a public servant has led me into this direction. I see Chattanooga moving forward as a model city that's going to begin to address issues of homelessness, which I believe should be done from a regional perspective, because homeless folks, they tend to move around, so you got to take a more global, regional look about it. We have talented, young, diverse citizens here, so we need to make sure that when we are convening and making decisions, that all persons are involved in that process. Our public safety, we need to start having more faith in our public safety, and we're going to be doing that by incorporating programs that get community citizens more involved. We already have the Citizens Review Committee. That's a whole nother segment in and of itself, but it's a step in the right direction in gaining confidence in our public safety as far as our police is concerned, and our fire department do a phenomenal job. So we keep uplifting and highlighting those individuals who keep our city safe. So there's our infrastructure concerns. We're going to be looking at developing a 5-year plan that's going to address our infrastructure, which includes paving. Right now,
No, potholes are a big
road
deal.
repair, and I believe we're going in that direction. We're going to look at budgeting to make sure that we can make progress each year with that, and our capital planning. We're going to be, our team is going to also be looking at our facilities to make sure that they're efficient and that they're compliant. Specifically our youth and family development centers, which we need to start coming up, which will be a lot more than a 5-year plan, but we need to make sure that they're state of the art and that they are in good locations and that they are utilized.
Okay, good. Well, Erskine, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Doug. This has been great.
It's an honor to chat with you. And,
yeah.
And let me just remind the viewer again, election is March 2nd. Voter registration ends February the 1st. And then early voting will begin February the 10th, end on February the 25th. And if you want to get in touch with Erskine, his email and website are up on the address, up on the screen. You can call him, or email him now. And really thank you for being here.
Thank you, Doug, for this opportunity. Yeah.
And thank you for watching this edition of Hamilton Flourishing.